All right, this is technically our first lecture of this course, and it's one of my favorite to go through, and I'm going to keep it as short as I can, but make sure that you kind of have a gist of this as you will see some of these topics and or discussion on your final exam, which is cumulative. Make sure that you have watched all of these lectures that I have posted to UTC Learn, as you will see many of those ideas and concepts and dates and laws and all that other good jazz on your final exam. So where has education started and where are we now? What has changed? And you're probably thinking, well, April, a lot. And you're right, it has significantly. So how did education start? Well, we know that education began with three original tenets, and we've kind of, I would say, de-evolved away from those. Parents were the responsible agents. If you wanted your student or your child to leave the fields to go to school, that was the parent's choice, and now it's mandated by compulsory education laws, isn't it? You have no choice if your student goes to school. Now, most states, some states, it's 16 when you can stop going to school. Some states, it's 18 when you can stop going to school. It's a state-by-state decision, but parents are no longer necessarily the responsible agents, because now, because it's mandated, you've taken a little bit of that power away from parents. Basic skills are the foundation of the curriculum. When schools were initially started, the whole intent was to learn those reading, writing, arithmetic skills in order to be able to write a letter, make a business exchange without being hustled, right? We wanted our students to be able to write simply, understand how to read, and to do basic math. Now, do we still teach basic skills? Well, we can argue yes and no, can't we? Basic skills are what are typically tested on our state-mandated test. So, yeah, we do. But do we go farther than that? Do we teach more than that? That's up for debate. Outcome is a preparation for adult life. Our students needed to leave school, and they needed to be able to get a job. Do we still do that? Do our students leave high school either with the ability to go to college or the ability to go to a 2-year technical school, or obtain a paying job that will allow them to subsist and provide for their family? Do we do that? Do our high schools prepare our students in that way? I would argue probably not. So who are the most responsible agents now? I just told you that parents used to be, right? Who are the most responsible agents now? Is it the students? Is it the parents, administrators, teachers, somebody else? How many would argue that it would probably be teachers? I mean, after all, if you guys know the new evaluation model in the state of Tennessee, your pay, your teaching license will be tied to how well your students perform on the end of the year test. How fair is that if you work in a school with high poverty? Well, not super fair. Our administrators the most responsible? Our parents? How about students? I always get from my students, well, the students in our classroom, if they have no motivation, then they're not going to learn. I agree with that absolutely. If they are not motivated, they're not going to learn. But who does that fall back on? I would say here, you, right, as the teacher. When I was growing up, if somebody got in trouble in my classroom, and I would use myself as an example, but I never got in trouble in school. I was definitely a goody two-shoes. But let's say my brother, because he did get in trouble quite often. If my brother got in trouble or wasn't doing well academically in school and the teacher called home, my parents would be in my brother's face saying like, you are not going to do this again, right? Now what happens if a teacher calls home because the student's not doing well or falling behind? The parents typically look at the teacher and say, what are you doing to help my child? Maybe this is your fault, correct? I've had that happen all the time in my classroom. Look at this. Do you guys recognize all of these different documents? If you don't know what Archimedes' principle is, that's buoyancy and theory of displacement. So if you get into a bathtub, the water gets higher, correct? You see all of these profound documents here. See how profound these are? We learn about most of these in school, and they're simple. They're short, right? Just like our school used to be. School used to be the simple one-room schoolhouse where one teacher educated multiple students, multiple content areas, multiple grade levels. And we had the most flourishing educational system in the world because it was simple, wasn't it? Now down here it says U.S. government regulations on the sale of cabbage. Give me a guess at the word count on that. Just think to yourselves. How many words would be in the U.S. government regulations on the sale of cabbage? And this is not on import-export. This is only on the sale of cabbage in the United States, folks. Everybody got their number in their head? Were you close? This is what we've done to education. We've taken something so simple that I, as a teacher, am giving knowledge to my students, and they are able to go out and apply that knowledge in any type of setting, whether it's a personal, social, workplace setting. And we've made it so complex, like the sale of cabbage. Almost 27,000 words to tell us how we can sell cabbage in the United States. If you've ever seen which has now been replaced with Every Student Succeeds Act, the No Child Left Behind regulations, it was almost 5 phone books high. Can you believe that? 5 phone books high of legislation on how to educate students. We've taken something so simple and made it so complex. And now, because it is so complex, is it working? Is our educational system working? Is this what we're doing to our kids? What do you see here? I just want you to think to yourself. This little girl over here, she looks like she's trying to run away, isn't she? She's trying to get to PE and to science and the arts, right? And these little kids, do they look happy? Look at their little faces. Education and learning should be fun. It should engage students in a process of give and take where we now create lifelong learners, shouldn't it? And what are we doing? We're testing it out of them. They're afraid to be wrong. They're afraid to try anymore, aren't they? Because we have penalized every time they are wrong in our educational system, because we don't allow wrong answers, do we? We don't. If you look at, and I know this is old data, but we only do this national testing I think it's every 4 years. In 2012, we were ranked 17th out of 36 industrialized nations in education. Right smack almost in the middle. Isn't that scary? The most powerful country in the world, and we're right smack in the middle in education. Something is wrong with that, folks. What are we doing wrong? Well, I posit that we're not calling a spade. And what I mean by that is our educational system is failing. Yet, what we do is we pretend it's not, and we put all these different band-aids to try to treat the symptoms. I had a professor in one of my graduate programs who likened it to this. So it's almost like we stumbled upon a dead horse, right? And instead of saying, oh, it's a dead horse, we need to bury it and get a new stallion, right? This is what we do. We test it, we assess it, we label it special ed. We fire all of the teachers in the building because obviously they're the problem. They killed the horse. No. Maybe we need new principals. No, maybe we need an extended school day. Oh, wait. Not an extended school day. Maybe we need to change from block scheduling to periods, right? That'll help. Oh, no, maybe we need more after school programs. No, parental involvement. Parental involvement would have saved this horse. Do you see where I'm getting at, folks? Instead of just saying our educational system is dead, we need to start fresh and over, we don't. We put so many different labels and problems on the educational system, and we prevent ourselves from moving forward, don't we? We just keep ourselves in the same cyclical pattern of failure. And everybody always asks me, well, what can we do? Why does it stay that way? Well, think of politics, folks. Is it a politician's agenda to say, you know what, what we've been doing for the last, 100 so years is not working anymore because times have changed, technology has changed, needs have changed. We need to change it up completely. Who are they going to tick off if they do that? If you're saying unions, that's a good idea. Unions thrive off status quo. And if you don't know what that means, I want you to do some research on unions. Unions play a huge role in our educational system because typically they're the ones who elect our presidents. The largest unions in the United States are teacher unions. So as you start to see and as you start to go through this course, I want you to realize that everybody in education has an agenda. Right down even to teachers in the classrooms all have an agenda, and you need to figure out what that is. Our agenda right now in the United States is to keep our status quo because we don't want to rock the boat, and no politician is willing to risk their office to do so. You'll notice here we are right there. right middle of the road for reading. Here we go for math. Watch this. Whee! All the way down here for math. We come back up slightly for science. Math is definitely our lowest subject compared to other industrialized countries. And yet, what do? We keep change the standards. They need to be higher. No, no, no. We need to change how we're teaching it. No, no, no. We need teachers who are have degrees in math and science. That's going to help. Will it? Is that what we need? Huh. Interesting. South Korea and Finland, they're always vying for the #1 spot when we test all of the industrialized countries. Right now, South Korea is on the top. They obviously, based on my facts and figures right here, they graduate more students than we do. And I know some of you are thinking, well, I know about this, and they only test the highest of their students. Well, you know why they do that? Is because not everybody is geared to go to college. Is everybody supposed to go to college in the United States? Some of you are shaking your head, but I worked in an inner city school, and I know for a fact that we were told that every one of our students should go to college. I'll be the first one to tell you, I'm the first one in my family to go to college, and the rest of my family, well, my brother and my parents, to be specific, make a lot more money than I do. My brother never went to college. He tried. He wasn't able to get through it because school and education were not meant for him. My brother makes almost 3 times my salary. And he's in, I would say, not even a blue-collar position because he is a manager of a store. And he makes a lot of money, and he never had to get an education to get there. If you ever meet somebody who gets a 2-year technical degree, think of like a plumber or an electrician, they're going to make a lot more money than you do too. Why is that? And why don't we start preparing our kids in high school to take that route? Why is it that we say everybody must go to college? Well, because it's the political correct thing to say. Right? It's the politically correct thing to say. We're not going to say, oh, I'm so sorry, you're not going to be able to make it in college, so we want you to go and waste your money and then rack up all these loans to pay back the government, and then you're not going to have a degree to show for it, and then you're going to be stuck working at McDonald's because we haven't trained you with any skills. That's what happens. Also, if you think about some of the differences here, think of another agenda that the United States has with education. Class size comes to mind. You just read that article by Malcolm Gladwell, didn't you? His posit was that it was something called an inverted U. There is a good number of where we maximize, right up here at the top, if we're looking at like a graph, where we maximize classroom size. Didn't he say it was around 18 students, I think he said? And then there's bad class sizes when you get super small or super big. But aren't we told by other educators, by teachers, oh, small class size is always better, always better. Is it? What agenda would somebody have to say that? Do you want to know who is the biggest proponent of small class sizes? The unions. Why would that be, folks? Think. Why would the unions want to push small class sizes? If you have smaller class sizes, don't you have more teachers? Yeah. And then, subsequently, you have more possible union members. Do you see the agenda now? Finland and South Korea, they also do more with fine arts, require languages, foreign languages, instruments. Finland offers more recess than the United States. Every 45 minutes, their kids get a 15 to 20 minute break. Our students in Tennessee get 15 minutes for recess. Elementary, 15 minutes. Very little homework for Finland as well, very little homework. And their teachers are trained very differently too. So this is what we're preparing our kids for, isn't it? They don't go to college, but we expect them to go out and find a well-paying job that's not minimum wage, and yet this is all they know how to do, isn't it? Would you say that this is all your high school prepared you for? I would even posit that must be true, because even at UTC, do you know how many of you had to go through remedial math and English? Oh, almost 45% of UTC students, and this is not just to UTC, this is in all institutions in the state of Tennessee and nationally. It's right around 40% nationally that have to take remedial math and science when they get to a 4-year institution. Why is that? Are our schools doing what they're supposed to do if our students are not ready to enter college? Well, no. Because if they're not ready to do basic reading and writing and math skills when they go to college, can they do it in the real world in a job? No. All we teach them is how to bubble in. All right, do you guys know what this is called? You'll need to know this for your final. This is the bell curve. What does this say? That if I give a standardized test, and usually even on your final, this is what it's going to look like. If I give a test, right? About 68% of my students are going to fall in the average range. If you've ever taken a basic stats class, you'll learn this. So this scores are kind of funky here, but the mean, the average is 100 on any standardized measure. Okay, the average. So between scores of 85 and 115, 68% of you guys will fall in that average range. And then roughly 15% will score above average, and roughly 15% will score below average. This is important. Why? Because on all of our state mandated tests, now they're state mandated, not so much federally, with the new Every Child or Every Student Succeeds Act. We are requiring a certain level of proficiency, aren't we? If students are way below average, red flags go up and then there's going to be consequences, right? So you're going to need to know for your final, based on the bell curve, it's impossible for everybody to be proficient, isn't it? Statistically impossible for it to happen. Yet we continue to mandate excellence and perfection in schools. Once again, what is the agenda? Are politicians going to stand up and say, oh, there is no way that these last 15%, whatever you want to say, are going to pass? So, sorry. No, it doesn't fit their agenda. Nobody wants to be honest. Nobody wants to deal with the truth, do they? Look at the old No Child Left Behind regulation. Do you see right here where I bolded it in? What does it say? 100% of students were going to be passing. 100%. I just showed you by the bell curve standard. Is that possible? No. So every state was bound to fail. Every state was bound to fail, and yet nobody raised up any red flags. So now the Every Student Succeeds Act, let's talk a little bit about how it's different. I want you to look this up because I'm going to have some questions on the final, and I don't want to spend too long on here because we're getting to I'm trying to hit the 20-minute mark here, okay? Every Student Succeeds, the same thing with No Child Left Behind, all right? And by the way, you could probably pause this to watch this and take notes if you need to, all right? With Every Student Succeeds, the federal government has stepped back and allowed states to take back over, okay? So the states can now determine administration and when those tests are given, all right? But the test still must happen. So not a big change, is it? Nope. Common Core, it's not mandated. States are encouraged to adopt, but it doesn't require Common Core. If you look back in educational law, Tennessee was the first state to accept this Race to the Top initiative under Obama's administration, which required us to adopt Common Core. We have now rewritten those to be more Tennessee-minded, I guess. But let's be honest, folks, it's still Common Core, okay? And if you don't know what I mean by Common Core and Race to the Top, please look it up. Make sure you have a working knowledge of this. Accountability. Under No Child Left Behind, if schools didn't make adequate improvement, the federal government could come in and take over the school or fire the staff, right? Or turn it into a charter school or close the school. Now, accountability, if schools are not doing what they need to be doing, could be left up to the states, not the federal government. But look what has a larger weight. Test scores and graduation rates. Same thing that it had before. States can do the same thing that the federal government can do. States can come in and take over schools, fire staff, change them to charter schools, close the schools. Same. Remedies, fixes. If schools didn't improve, this is what I was just talking about. Here's what could happen, all right? Every Student Succeeds Act, subject to state takeover. However, look at this. Specific language is not included. Do you know what that means? Anything could happen, folks. So if you're out there teaching and you're in a low-performing school, well, more than likely that's where you're going to be working. No offense, but that's where you're going to be hired. You don't know what will happen if your students are not meeting state criteria. I'm going to skip over this because you're going to be prepared for this before you go out to your first jobs, but I want you to understand the T and Ready test is replace the TCAP, okay? So this replaced the TCAP right here. T and Ready replaced the TCAP. Tested grades 3 through 8th every year. Okay, and these are some new examples. It's done on the computer. How many inner city kids do you know have a computer and know how to type proficiently? How well are they going to do on this question if they don't know how to type and they're hunting and pecking, right? How many of your kids in inner city know how to drop and drag, right? How many of our kids here have ever had to choose all of the right answers instead of just one? Think they're going to do well on this test? Probably not. So quickly, think to yourself, why did you want to become a teacher? Why are you here? Are you here because this is an elective? Are you here because you grew up with a family of educators? Are you here because you love kids? Are you here because you love to learn? Are you here because you had a bad teacher and you think you could do it better? Are you here because you had a great teacher who inspired you to enter the classroom? Whatever reason you're here, whatever reason that is, I want you to always remember your goal, your objective for why you're in this position. The average number of years a teacher stays in the profession is 5, and there's a reason for that. Teaching is not easy. Everybody thinks those who can do and those who can't teach. It's absolute fallacy. Teaching is the hardest, most noble profession in the United States, and it's the most unrespected profession as well. But I guarantee that you will have the most rewarding and lifelong career if you always remember why you're here. And if you don't, think back, write yourself a letter. I had a professor in college who told us to write a letter to ourselves and remind ourselves why we entered this profession. And then read it when times got tough. Because believe me, times will be tough. You will want to quit more times than you will want to stay. And I know that this whole presentation probably really ignited your passion. So what I want you to do is I want you to Google Taylor Molly on what teachers make. And I want you to watch this video. It's 3 minutes long, and it does have a few bad words. So if you need to, you can just read along or, put your earmuffs on. But I want you to listen to what he says and what he responds to when people ask how much he makes as a teacher. Because we're always kind of given that look when we say, oh, I want to go in education. And you get that look from people like, oh, you're so smart. Why would you ever do that? Well, maybe you should give them a response like Taylor Molly does in his video. Okay, don't forget, you have Journal 1 due this week as well as a few other things. Make sure that you are keeping up with the course outline. If you have any questions, you know where to post them.